Hi, everyone. Welcome to the monthly Co-op Council meeting. We have a pretty full and fun agenda tonight, so we'll get to that. I just want to say a few housekeeping things. If you are here and you don't want to be recorded, please turn your camera off. We will ask that everybody keep their mics off until the open forum section, where anyone will have time to ask a question or bring up comment or concern as they wish after we discuss our agenda items. We will conclude the meeting with an executive session, which we have space for at each meeting to make sure that anything of very sensitive nature or that could be in violation of someone else's right to privacy, a member or staff member's right to privacy, that we discuss that in a private setting. So that will conclude our meeting. And with that being said, let's get to it. We have the majority of our council here, and we have a couple members of our community. Thanks for taking the time to be here with us, everybody, and everybody watching at a later time at home. You are amazing. Thank you for tuning in. The first thing on our agenda are updates. Katie, do you want to give us some updates?
Sure, yeah. I see first on the agenda is membership numbers. Siobhan, do you have the latest membership number?
Yes, I do. Our total membership in the co-op is at 1,170. So that's really exciting because we're only 30 away from 1,200, which is a really big number. And our solidarity count in our membership is 190. So we're almost at 200. So it's also really exciting. And I think our goal is to have 20% of our entire membership be solidarity. That's curious. So 20% of, all right, I'm not going to try to do math, but I think that that's what that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think so. 20% of 1,200 would be 240.
Yeah, so we're not quite there. We're about
close. We've got growth opportunity for sure.
Yes.
And do you want to say anything about upcoming events? I know we've got the watch party planned for tomorrow. Siobhan, do you want to give a quick overview of that?
Thank you. We have a watch party for the architect presentation, so I'm going to be showing them tomorrow at noon, and you can pop in and watch the architect presentations, hopefully with other members. We had just 2 people come to the one last night, but it was cool, and we talked about it a little bit after, which was nice. So we're doing that again tomorrow at noon, and you can fill out the feedback form either during or right after we watch it. And trying to think if there are other member events. We may or may not be planning one for October, the Milk with Dignity. So yeah, so maybe another one coming in the next couple of weeks, but definitely one tomorrow at noon. And that's all I have for right now.
This is slightly off topic, but Siobhan, did you say you were going to go to the Midtown Business Alliance meeting tomorrow?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's at like 6 or 6:30, something like that.
Thanks for representing. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
And do we have our deep dive with Ethan still on the calendar?
Yes. So I just actually ran into Ethan at the harvest party, and I was like, are we still on for this week? Because I didn't get the RSVP for him. But yes, this Thursday at 3, we're gonna take a deep dive with Ethan from the African Roots Center, and that'll be on Instagram and Facebook Live. So I'm excited to chat with Ethan this week. And
Is this your second deep dive?
This will be the 4th one.
Oh wow! I think I only saw the one with Inno. They're so great, Siobhan. I love that you're doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, we did one with Inno, Tyler Epps from Rise Up. Katie did one with
Angela DeFelice.
And we'll be doing one with Ethan this week. And I'll put it out on our social media. I've just I didn't want to hound Ethan down about it, because I know that Ethan's got a lot going on. but Ethan said that he could do it, so I will also share it on our social media, and I'll put it out in the newsletter too, so that our members can join.
Great. Great. Thanks for that, Siobhan and Katie. And now, Kevius, can you give us a little financial update on where we are in our money managing?
I could give you a good crash of picking up where we left off last time. The last time we discussed, since we didn't hire a GM, we sort of had extra capacity to see what we could fund and what we could contribute. So we're entertaining different partnerships with people for the future, such as like covering their immediate needs, so they're a long-term partner with us, just to get everyone at the table. And we're also thinking about different ways of incentivizing participation for various income ranges of members. We're still deciding whether we do that on a sliding scale based on your income or a regular rate, or is it hourly? We're still, teetering in that between a lot of things in that process. So if you have any input, feel free to email us with your thoughts or add that as a discussion point. But yeah, that's essentially where we are. As far as the budget development for next quarter, we're still at the sort of like head of that, but I'll be more than happy to share that at our next meeting, where we are with next quarter budgets.
Okay, thanks, Kevius. Sounds good. But we're not over budget. We're spending well. We're being responsible.
Yeah, we're under budget, mainly again due to the not hiring a GM. So yeah.
Okay. So is any other sort of like reminders to the community about or to our membership that anyone can think of that they want to throw in now before we move on to our architect conversation?
I'll just throw out there quickly that we're in conversation. So the council had an idea of creating a print publication for the co-op. That would be something that we can connect with community members and co-op members. And so we're exploring that, and at an upcoming council meeting, we're gonna have a proposal to for how that can look. And essentially it might include needing to add an additional part-time staff person if we wanted to really make that publication good and worth worth our time. So that proposal is coming. We can look out for that. And any members who are interested in that, I mean, I know I didn't give a lot of information, but if members are interested, definitely reach out, because we'll be looking for a member engagement and input on that.
Okay, thanks. So now at this point, all of the council members have here, and Siobhan as well, have watched the architect presentations from last Sunday. It's been a week. And also Katie did send around a little leveling document. I don't know if anyone got a chance to look at that. So I thought, since this is the initial discussion, I thought we should frame it as this, because the building development committee will be meeting tomorrow night to discuss, what they thought. And, they're all professionals in the industry. So they're project managers and architects and, cost estimators. They have all of this. So I thought we should have our initial discussion and sort of think of what are the questions we need to ask of the BDC, like what would be information that they could help us understand about this. Because this is just an initial conversation. We're not in any way going to choose. We have a lot to go before we choose. So like, what are questions that came up for all of us in how to assess these different presentations? And did anything stick out that we need a little professional feedback on, that we could get from when Katie goes to the BDC meeting tomorrow? She can ask on our behalf and say the council is curious about these things. What would you say to them? So we could sort of get some very good expert opinions from them that way. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, and I wanted to just add that there's maybe a couple things that might be useful to point out about that leveling document that I was considering screen sharing it, but I think it's too overwhelming. It's just very, we'd have to spend a lot of time kind of understanding how it actually works.
Yeah,
So I
that
think we
might be
won't do that.
something we could go over with Susan at some point. I don't think we should share it because there wasn't all the information for all the firms, and so it's there. We can't use it to compare really at this point.
Right. Well, it is leveled, but it's still in a starting point. And I think the main takeaway for me is that, or there was a couple takeaways. Is this a good time to share them?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So one of them is that, we basically BKSK and Mass, when they're leveled, are most similar in their cost projection, and Design Advocates comes in higher. Not, I wouldn't say like significantly higher, but higher. Design Advocates also had the least complete proposal, unfortunately. So if we wanted to move forward with Design Advocates, there are several things that we would need to go back and ask them for. For example, the total square foot that they're basing this upon, breakdown of time spent by phase and firm and discipline, staffing plan per phase, etc. They don't have an MEP, a mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering firm listed. So that's one thing. And then another kind of like larger overarching takeaway was like the relationship between time and money. So essentially, and this is, I'm summarizing what I learned from the amazing Susan Wallace, who put this leveling sheet together. So essentially, Mass came in at quite a lower proposed rate for construction and architectural fees. They also came in at a much shorter time for the whole project. So they put us finishing in 17 months as opposed to 29 months for Design Advocates and 27 and a half for BKSK. And so, and we can talk more about this at Building Development Committee to see if more professionals in the field want to weigh in on that, but it seems like 17 months to finish is quite aggressive and less realistic. So that short amount of time is also linked with a smaller rate, but ultimately it's going to take longer probably, and so their rate will also change.
I noticed that their rate was so much lower, and I was curious if that was because they hadn't planned any like large, like BKSK had activated that roof area and had sort of like done some building envelope changes, and Mass hadn't, and I was wondering, if that was why it was so much lower.
Yeah, it might be, but considering we don't actually have a design, it's hard to know for sure. Like, they said they're putting construction administration at only 9 months as opposed to 12 and 13 months for the other two firms. So yeah, that's unclear, but also their pre-construction timeline is also much shorter. So they're saying, for example, only 1.25 months or basically 5 weeks for schematic design, which includes a lot of that community design piece that we've been talking about, compared with like 4.5 months for Design Advocates and 2.5 months for BKSK. So I think we would just want to ask them, how did you come to these numbers? Is this actually going to be realistic, on knowing that for us, process is really important and we're not going to be rushing through community engagement stages.
A quick question about the three firms, and maybe this plays into why Mass is just seems quicker, because that is drastically, that's very fast. Do you think them having their own construction firm has anything to do with it?
Their construction firm they have is in Rwanda.
So it's not here in the States at all?
Mm-mm.
Got you.
Yeah, it's still going to go out to bid for construction. So
got you.
That would be a lot of money to bring that construction firm here. So I'm curious what any other questions that came up for anyone else about the, any other council members for the design proposals. I mean, sorry, the architect proposals, they were not design proposals. Rachel.
I mean, the biggest questions for me were really the community engagement process for all three of the different firms, but it doesn't sound like that is necessarily what we're speaking about tonight, because the question that you asked was framed around like nuts and bolts architecture stuff, right?
I mean, that's just because we have the BDC meeting tomorrow. So if we have any specific questions, this would be a good place to, formulate them, but that doesn't mean we need to be limited to that. I think you should bring up any concerns or questions or thoughts at all.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, I guess that was, that's the lens that I was really looking at all three of the proposals with, was, which of these firms is going to be a partner that's, I guess, I wouldn't say easy to work with, but a partner that is willing to like slow down and listen, and a partner that is open to working with like a lot of different people and a lot of different opinions, because the council is that and our membership is that, and also working in a community that is very diverse and can be very impacted, especially in Midtown. So I guess my hesitation with really all three of the proposals were that it seemed maybe not, and I don't, am I okay to like name names here? Like, okay, so I maybe not mass, but definitely like BKSK and Design Advocates really wanted to build like a shiny new building. And so I just wonder like where that discrepancy came in. And maybe that's just like a value that I feel strongly about and that other folks may not be aligned on, and that's fine too. I'm looking forward to that discussion. But like, is that an error in the RFP? Is that an error in our selection? Or is that just like, okay, we need to have another meeting with these folks and really help them to understand like our vision, which is not necessarily a co-op that sells, like $12 cheese and has floor to ceiling windows. Yeah.
Anyone have any feedback on that, Kivius?
Yeah, I think it goes into which, like, even with the big shiny proposals that they gave, do we think they will be open and really take the time to really understand what the community wants, right? So I sort of like saw that as like a mock-up and not necessarily like something put in stone. But I think what's more important to me is like, do you have the track record of really understanding the community and creating architecture that speaks to the culture that exists within that community and the ones that are gonna, exist beyond, that doesn't displace them in any sort of way. So I guess I will like second with that is like maybe search their profiles a bit more and maybe just a conversation with them before we're ready to make a decision, to just ask a bit more about their data collection and processing.
Any other like just burning thoughts, burning questions, big opinions? Thanks, baby.
I guess I'm also curious about like what that process would entail for each of the different firms. I mean, some of the firms spoke about it. I know Design Advocates said that they would potentially have their own community liaison, I think they called them. And so like, how is that person? How is that?
Hi, Luke.
How is that person? I'm sorry, everybody. How is that person, like, who is that person working with the other firms? Like, would they also have a community liaison, or is that something that like we'd have to internally focus on, like appointing someone to doing that? So yeah, I'm just wondering like the workability within the structures that they were proposing.
I'm feeling a little jealous right now because I didn't get my hello from Lou. Only Kevius.
Like a Kevius fan club over here.
Okay, well, that was, that's good. This is just, an initial discussion. We will be talking about this for the next, 2 weeks, I think, probably. So this was like, we just are dipping our toe in. What?
I just want to quickly add that we, just for info, we have a meeting with Novo on Thursday with our council to talk a little bit more about the budget piece of this, for those who are wondering about that.
Yeah, so next steps on this are, a conversation with our funder. And then we on Sunday will have a bigger conversation about this as well in our committee meeting. And, hopefully everyone is sending their feedback via our, Joe, I see your feedback and we'll capture that as well, but I would encourage everyone to fill out the survey so that we have all of that data in one place from people. And I think the deadline for that is tomorrow, right? Tomorrow or Wednesday?
So we actually pushed it back
Wednesday.
to next Wednesday because we opened up our feedback to the wider community, not just co-op members. So yeah, we're collecting feedback forms until next Wednesday, September 29th, by the end of the day.
All right, we will adjust our meeting agendas accordingly. All right, so next on the agenda is sort of like how we shift the BDC once we're through the architect selection process. Then we have still have need for a BDC, but does that still look like this big group that meets every other week, or does it need to morph into like 3 smaller groups, a grocery selection, a community design engagement group, and a project management group or something like that, that we have sort of like 3 different mini BDCs for? And then would this be a good time to open that up? Because there's probably a lot more people with expertise out there now that weren't members when we started that committee. And now, we could sort of onboard them if they wanted to be involved in this next phase. So we should decide how that looks, or a council, we should decide what we need from the BDC at this point.
Yeah, and I think a piece of that conversation is also about the project management that you mentioned, Lyndsay. Like, are we gonna have, is project management gonna be held by the Building Development Committee? Are we hiring someone separately? Do we wanna go back to an owner's representative type structure like we were using for a couple months before? Because that part, once we have our architect and grocery consultant hired in the next maybe month, right, then the work begins and we'll need project management.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like that this conversation has already started in the BDC, and but should it maybe be a smaller group that advises us on how to go, what route to go and who to hire? They can help us decide, do we want a project manager? Do we want a building rep, owner's rep? And then, help us go through the hiring process of that. And that should maybe be a smaller group.
Yeah, we kind of got the recommendation from the BDC that they thought we should hire an independent project manager / owner's rep. So I think the council just has to discuss if that's how we want to proceed, if we want to take that recommendation or if we want to do something different. Yeah.
So I would propose that we I would propose that we like make a little charter for a small BDC subcommittee to be like our project management advisory board while we do this, so that we have people to ask that can help us with the job description, help us with the hiring process, that will know what they're looking at more than we will. That would be what I would propose on that side of things. Thoughts on that? Kevius types in that, he says that's sound. Thanks, Kevius. Anyone else?
Yeah, that makes sense to me,
Okay.
Rachel.
I also think it would be great to open up the BDC to people that are interested in working on the sort of like outward facingness of this process in terms of community engagement around the building process. That would be a good BDC subcommittee to have. Some community members that are just thinking about how do we engage people in the building process. And I think that maybe there might be some people currently on the BDC that would be into that, but there also might be other people that would want to join for that reason.
I think that's great. So that would be specifically, because we used to have our member engagement committee, and this would be specifically about engaging members and future members. That's how I like to call non-members. In the building piece, right?
Yeah, it would be really a part of the BDC. It would be a committee that anyone could join, but once we form it, like that will probably be it. And they will be, we'll have to charter it, but they will be tasked with thinking up ways to engage people in this process, and maybe even working with whatever architect firm we hire, then they can work with that firm to craft the workshops and the feedback sessions and all that. Like that will be their job.
I like that.
And
that person, and so that group would kind of work in an advisory way with Siobhan and with our architectural team.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't know. We've sort of been skirting around this, but we haven't actually like said, here's how we're going to do it. So that would be my proposal on how we do it.
Awesome.
If no one is saying no, then that's then we're going to move forward on that. And then, yeah. And obviously the grocery consultant process. So yeah, so we should put those charters together, and we should put out a call to the membership to get other voices in on this. Anything else on that, and what we need from the BDC going forward? Any other thoughts? Kedia, Rachel?
I wonder, so I know we talk a lot about ways to engage just, community members, especially those, marginalized community members, 18 to 24, that sweet range. I know New Paltz has a lot of programs such as like BPI certification for different infrastructure, but they have a whole bunch of engineering programs with a lot of people in Kingston. So it could be a really good opportunity to engage, those marginalized communities of Kingston, centered around something they would like to do. So my suggestion would be if the BDC could reach out to that New Paltz program, specifically civil engineering, to get people in Kingston, of the demographic that may be interested in just joining that group and helping develop this co-op.
That's a really great idea. I like that.
Cool, I'm making a note of it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Can we move on from this? Everyone feel good about that?
Yeah, I realized I didn't give an update about the grocery consultant RFP. So that's a little backtracking, but I just wanted to make sure that it gets out there that the RFP, the request for proposals for grocery consultant, which would be a contractor that reports to the co-op directly, and would help us design the interior space of the store. That request for proposals is out and it's due on the 27th, next Monday. And it went out to 7 different firms. And I know that 2 are not submitting. So hopefully we'll have 3 or 4 solid proposals to choose from. Only 1 firm submitted questions before the question period ended on Monday. So
Which firm?
7 Roots.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next on the agenda is our voting. It's time for our executive positions on the council to change. And so we have some shifting going on. Did everyone vote? Yes, yes. I just voted while we were sitting here because I was like, oh my gosh, voting's gonna close. So you have 5 minutes to vote if you didn't do it.
I just have a second, and just so everyone knows, it's just voting is only open to council members. This is just for executive positions, but I'm logging in to see the election results right now. So I'll tell you soon. I think we have, it looks like we have 4 of our 5 electors who have voted, which I think technically is okay. The question is, are we okay with carrying on without hearing from one of our electors, Joe?
I feel like since we're only doing the voting because it's in our bylaws that these positions have to be voted, and usually we do consensus, and we picked who would be running for each position by consensus, that it's sort of like, you know, or it's not a real vote. I mean, it is a real vote because we have to vote, but we know that we're all in agreement about it as well.
Okay, great. So I have the results. I'll read them. For the role of president, there was 1 person nominated, Kevius Avery, and Kevius got 100% of the votes. For vice president, congratulations, Kevius. For vice president, there was 1 person nominated, Lyndsay von Miller, and Lyndsay got 100% of the vote. Congratulations, Lyndsay. For secretary, Rachel Yeager was our 1 nominee. Rachel got 100% of the votes. Congratulations, Rachel. Sorry about the whatever thing happening in the background. And for meeting chair, we had Joe Greenberg as our 1 nominee, and he got 100% of the vote. Congratulations, Joe. So, and just so all the listeners know, I'm currently sitting in an appointed council seat on the council, and as of October 1st, I'm stepping off of the council, and I will still be a staff member at the co-op.
And still a pivotal player in this game of co-op building.
Yeah. You're not getting rid of me yet.
No. So excited, October 1st, that Kevius will be our new president. You got big shoes to fill, Kevius, so. Moving along to our next. I think the only new business we had, Katie, I think you alluded to earlier, so I don't think we need to go back to that, but that's something we're gonna have to talk about. What did you?
The grocery RFP?
No. It's in the notes.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry. The
publication.
zine.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
zine. Yeah.
Okay.
And whether or not we move forward with that project. Donna Schlackman has brought up the fact that we didn't have a nomination for treasurer, and that is true. We are working on that. Kevius is our current treasurer, and as he steps out to become the president, we are working to replace him with someone who can fill his very large treasurer shoes. very large. So do not fear. We are being fiscally responsible. Okay, open forum time. So this is a good time, friends and co-owners who are here. If you have a question or comment that you would like to get into the public record, please feel free to unmute yourself, turn on your camera. Oh, hi, Karen.
Hi. I had a question about membership fee. Is that yearly we pay again, or how does that work with membership fee?
It's one and done. You pay, you buy your share, and that is a share in perpetuity unless you at some point decide you want nothing to do with us and you sell back your share to the co-op. So one time.
And then I have a question about a couple of the architecture firms. And in fact, I put it in my sheet for responding about some of them had really quite an experience with setting up groceries. So I was thinking, well, if they can do that, do we need to have a consultant?
It's a really
they're going to be, yeah.
It's a good point that you raise. And I think for clarification, I don't think any of them have ever built a grocery store before. So this would be a first project. They have done some food service restaurants, but I don't think we have anyone that's done a grocery store. We didn't have anyone submit in the RFP phase that had done a grocery store. And so a grocery consultant is key in this project for sure. And then also we were advised that we should have a grocery consultant anyways, because it's a very, very specific skill set in terms of mechanicals and flow of goods and people and staff that is sort of apart from a regular retail design scenario. So
okay.
Thanks for
you
reading
answered my question. Thank you. That's it for now. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your hard work.
Thanks, Karen. Ali in the house. Hi, Ali. Nice to see your name here. Anyone else have something to bring up in this open forum session before we adjourn our meeting? Yes, Donna.
Not to make your meeting longer, but I'm very curious about the community engagement and that process in this, because I feel like you all have worked so hard, maybe especially Siobhan, in trying to engage the community in the building of this co-op and gathering information, and you've had tons of meetings. So what is going to be really different going forward in the effort to bring more people and their voices, especially Midtown people, into this project when you hire someone?
That's a very good question. Rachel has been bringing up similar. Rachel, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So I will just say that that is a question that we're trying to tackle in a very strategic way in this upcoming quarter. And we're doing a lot of work, some individually and as a council, to really put a strategic plan in place with a lot of benchmarks and different goals, including really understanding our demographics and our members so that we have enough information to know how to reach, Siobhan mentioned earlier, 20% solidarity member rate. What does that mean? We need to hire a researcher perhaps to help us better understand our members and our place in the community. And then I think Kivius especially has a lot of really wonderful ideas about how to best execute focus groups. I know we talk a lot about zones of genius, but a lot of our members, obviously, they have their own zones of genius as well, and how to figure out how to tap into things that they're passionate about and interested in, to really get folks excited about engagement. So I think a little bit of this restructuring of our council positions, I think will really help make a difference. And yeah, just a next quarter focus pretty much entirely on community engagement from the council, which now that we have these designs that are up for discussion, and then once we select an architect, I think personally that having like a tangible project to work towards will also really excite members. Did that answer it okay?
Could I also add?
Please.
Sorry. Can I add to your last point? Just about because it's something that we've talked about in the co-op on how to build partnerships, and I think that's a huge way that we're going to go because as Rachel mentioned, we're diving into the next month or so to dive into exactly what our demographic data is, right? So that we can see the disproportion, and then we're going to that place where we know the margins exist. There are a lot of amazing, wonderful organizations who have already concentrated this demographic, such as the Boys and Girls Club, for example, who has a lot of kids there, right? So the question is, how can we engage those kids on the design process, whether we come to them or they come to us? The same with different neighborhoods in Kingston who we can unite and recruit around just simply food, right? How can we use that as a medium and a way to concentrate people and get their voices heard, and then really apart? And one clear focus that I think has been really nice about this process is I think, the term community engagement, you just like, oh, I'm going to engage the community, take some information and leave. I think it really fits to the vibe that we're going, where we're trying to think about community integration, and like how do I take the community and embed them very deeply into the fine fabric of everything that we do at the co-op. So I think the biggest key that's different is we're starting on the margins this time. Those future members, as Katie mentioned, the ones who really need sources of food, and we're really making sure they are above most well represented and well comfortable in this space.
Thank you, Kivius, and thank you, Rachel. I think you answered that question really thoroughly. So we've come to the point of the evening now where we need to go into our executive session now, and I just want to thank everyone so much for being here. This was a really well-attended meeting, which makes us really happy, especially in this place where we are in, as Kivius and Rachel mentioned, moving forward with our community integration. So having community here was really great. Thank you. Ollie, I wish you had been here earlier. We'll have to catch up later. And with that said, thanks for being here, and we'll see you all later. We're gonna stop the recording now.
Thank you, Siobhan.